Hey everybody, this is Rob and Jordan, and we are back for Archangel Ink Live number 22. Jordan, welcome back. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great, Rob. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So I wanted to give a quick shout out to StreamYard. We did get Archangel Ink's logo up in that corner. I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing toward or if it's pointing to the right place. Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah, we'll see how this goes for now. This is also simulcasting on Facebook and YouTube. So hopefully some of the choppiness or technical issues that we were experiencing before will be a little bit abated. Feel free to leave comments down below. Let us know what you think, if things are looking good or if it's any different than in previous iterations. But we're always looking to get a little bit better piece by piece. So yeah, we'll keep at it. Tonight, we are going to be talking about, it is a bestseller breakdown. What do successful book listings look like? And Jordan has put together a number of books, and we're going to be doing a little screen share here, and we're going to kind of go over what they're doing, observations, notes, things that might be helpful lessons for authors out there looking to build their own listings and get a leg up on the competition. So anything you wanted to start off with, Jordan, before we jump on in?
No, I just wanted to share that, if anyone watching this has any comments on the individual books, just let us know. We'd be happy to kind of share what we're thinking in more detail on certain parts. But yeah, we thought it would be exciting just to go through and look at 10 bestsellers and just give you guys kind of our feedback, just kind of do it live. Like, what is it about these books that are good? There's definitely reasons that books kind of go up and excel. And we talk a lot about the fact that making a really good sales page on Amazon is huge. And that's really what we're going to be talking about tonight. What do these sales pages have? What do the covers look like? What are the titles? Different things like that to kind of give you an idea as you're starting to maybe think about your own book and what you're putting together. And yeah, even if you already have a book out there too, just going back and editing that listing, and hopefully either way, wherever you are in your journey, this will prove valuable and useful.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the nice things about Amazon is that you can make updates on a continual basis. You can make updates to the content. You can make updates to your listing. And I remember a conversation with I don't know, I think it was a beginning author a couple of years ago saying, look, there are a lot of moving pieces to building a successful book, to launching it effectively, and to having a strong listing and to building your followership and all that. And one of the things that's happened with the widespread availability of self-publishing platforms and the ability to distribute all over the world is you have a much lower barrier of entry. But with that lower barrier of entry, you also have a lot of stuff that just doesn't pass the quality threshold. And so you do have an opportunity to kind of stand out from the crowd. Yes, it's more difficult because there are more people, more competitors in the marketplace, but you also have a lot of people who aren't taking care and attention and going into all that detail to make it as strong as possible. And so if you do that, you can distinguish yourself on that front, in addition to on your content and everything else that you bring.
Yep.
Cool. Okay.
Hi, Rob. I've shared my screen. Let me know when you get it up and are ready to go. But I am ready to go to jump into our first book, wherever you are.
Let's jump in. So we've got number one, and yeah, feel free to let us know your thoughts, Jordan.
All right, good deal. We're up. We're ready to go.
I think so. It looks like it on my end.
Cool. Just because I once I go to the screen and I'm sharing, I can't actually see what you're seeing. Yep. So
yes. Yeah. I think we're projecting. We have you and I on the side, on the left-hand side here, and then the screen that you're messing with. So it looks like American Dirt, Oprah's Book Club, a novel, is the first one that you have listed.
Good deal. This is the first one that I picked. This is showing up consistently. If you're looking at Amazon and browsing for books, this is up there, with the options for best-selling books right now. So the first thing right off the bat that is really good about this book and the title is that they actually added in Oprah's Book Club here. Probably pretty obvious, but if you have a book that's in Oprah's Book Club or potentially has another big, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but another really big plug like that, it could be valuable to put that in your title. I mean, I'm guessing that is really helping that book out, because as we all know, an endorsement from Oprah is one of the best endorsements you can get.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oprah's a kingmaker when it comes to books, especially with her book club, which has been going on forever. Yeah. You know, if you have like the other example I always give is Tony Robbins, but Tim Ferriss or Robert Kiyosaki, or, you know, any number of people, depending on the industry that you're in, can really skyrocket a book. And also anytime somebody goes and searches Amazon for Oprah, you know, they'll get all of Oprah's products, but also your book, Oprah's book club, will be in there, and that's advantageous, especially if it's actually a recommendation from you know, from the book club, and not just Oprah's book club, a discussion about all of the you know, all of the things that Oprah's done over the years, or, you know, whatever. But okay, please continue on.
Some other really good things that this listing is doing, it has going for it, lots of ratings already. I'm going to scroll down real quick and see when the book came out, just because I'm curious about that. If I can find that real quick down here. Yeah, it just came out just a few weeks ago, January 1st, 2020. Yep. So to already have that many reviews, I mean, they're definitely, obviously have done their legwork of getting the book out there and doing sales and getting a lot of, I'm sure they have a lot of verified reviews. We'll look at that in a second. It's doing a really good job getting reviews and ratings kind of already up there.
Right. And for anybody who has is looking at this on a smaller screen, it looks like it's 548 ratings as of now. So that's, you know, within 6 weeks or so of book launch, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah, within that amount of that time frame, that, I mean, that's a fantastic number to already have. You know, it's one of those things. That book is showing Amazon's system, you know, that it is Oprah's book club, and it is doing very well, and it's only going to kind of expand from there.
Yep.
Another thing the book has going for it, has all different editions that you could possibly want of the book. Has Kindle, hardcover, audiobook, and even audio CD as well. I don't see in there, Rob, a paperback edition, which I think is kind of interesting. Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a while for traditionally published books to go to like the trade paperback edition or mass market paperback edition. I imagine, you know, maybe there's some benefit to going hardcover. There may be some some bestseller lists that only categorize the hardcover, so maybe that's part of it. But yeah, another thing I'll notice right now, or I'll point out, pricing. Kindle price is $14.99, audiobook is $19.59, hardcover is $16.79, and the audio CD is $34.84. So that you know, with the exception of the audio CD, they're all kind of priced right around that same window. So I mean, based on that, what I'm seeing is they probably want people to get the hardcover edition, you know. And again, I don't know if this is the case. I'll have to look into it, but I believe that there are some bestseller lists that only count hardcover copies sold as part of their list, you know, bestseller list quantity. And so if that's the case, you know, you can kind of mess around with pricing. I don't know if things are different with a traditionally published book with a publishing house, you know, created project, where that $14.99 Kindle edition, for most people, for a self-published author, you're going to actually get only 35% of the royalty on that. So you'd be better off pricing it $5 less and getting $7 out of it than getting, you know, $4.75, something like that, $5.25 from the Kindle edition based on this. So that tells me also that maybe their Kindle sales aren't as important to them as, you know, the hardcover or the audiobook edition.
Yeah, Rob, I think that's a great point. Totally agree there. Yeah, just looking at this listing, looking at this hardcover thing right here, I mean, the price is only slightly more there. You know, it's Prime. It's there's a lot of good stuff going for that. So yeah, I agree. I think they're pushing for that hardcover edition. So cool. The other thing I want to talk about too, you know, not to spend too much time on this one book, but I really like the cover a lot. I think it's very interesting the way they did it. You know, the book is titled American Dirt, but it's a very like kind of fancy looking cover with a lot of good colors and blues, and you know, that's kind of like a flower bird or something. Not 100% sure what that is, but it's intriguing. It's interesting. Like, what is that? Why is this American Dirt? But then it's a really nice looking cover, and it kind of has some intriguing things. And this is gonna stick out on a bookshelf. Right. It's gonna stick out in a thumbnail, very much so, with the blues. And I just think this is a very very good cover.
Right.
And I can see the Oprah's Book Club tag on there, which is obviously, if you have that, then, share that everywhere you can.
Yeah. And it's gold and it's contrasting. You've got this sort of,
Yes.
blue and off-white color palette, and then the black, obviously, from the text. And then also what it may not be obvious unless you're looking at it, zoomed in a little bit. Those cross hatches are actually barbed wire. So, that's also kind of evocative of the title. American Dirt, and you're thinking, okay, well, maybe there's something going on. Maybe these the birds and the blues. There's beauty along with roughness, or something to that effect. You don't know exactly what it's about, but there are evocations that it brings up. And then again, you have the Oprah's Book Club seal, which is a bright, almost sun orange, or rather sun yellow, and so it's contrasting. Your eye goes to that. And then, at a glance, you don't necessarily think much of it. But if you zoom in and you look at it, or if you have it in your hand, then it is, you see, oh, wow, I see why there's this gold ribbon on it. And, it kind of makes you zoom in a little bit closer, makes you take a second look at it. And then when you do take that second look, there is the prestige that the content affords, that the Oprah's Book Club medal affords.
Yep. And I think the way this cover is made is further evidencing your kind of theory of them pushing the hardcover here. If you're thinking about that tag, it is kind of hard to read that tag in this view. And I imagine in a thumbnail, it might be even harder to see that.
Right.
And then right here, this writing right here, I can't read that without, I would have to click on this and the view inside to even see what that says.
Right.
But if you're thinking about the hardcover being in a bookstore or being out there, that's going to be very obvious and very big enough that people can read it. So I think even the cover design is pushing a little bit more of that hardcover, maybe eventual paperback edition.
Right. Yeah. And then one other note on that. Sometimes there's this question or this concern that sometimes authors have about building their book cover. And they're like, hey, the subtitle's a little bit small. I can't really read it. Or, maybe there's an endorsement quote or something at the top and I can't really read it. And the thing to be mindful of, it doesn't have to be visible in the thumbnail, on the digital edition, especially because most people are thinking of the digital cover as a translation of a print cover. And they're expecting, to have things kind of zoomed in, when you have it in hand. You can read whatever that text is over there. You can read an endorsement. You can notice things like the barbed wire a little bit more readily. But you don't have to have that entirely visible and obvious in the digital edition. You actually want your digital edition to look like a print edition because that's what people associate, good book covers with. You're not going to alienate anybody by having some text that's a little bit small that you kind of have to zoom in to read, because again, that's just the point of reference that we have in our minds. Yep.
And I will say real quick, I love this stuff. I love looking at things, and it's really cool talking to you back and forth about this. So hopefully people watching this are enjoying this so far. But yeah, I think there's a lot that I wouldn't even have expected we'd be able to get back and forth, even on this one book. So really cool.
Yep.
Did just want to jump in. We'll go to the next most important thing here, I think, is the book description, sales copy.
If I can, before we jump into that, you hit the read more, the drop down, but above that, there were just a handful of words that were legible, and those were the #1 New York Times bestseller. Right, exactly. Oprah's Book Club pick, and then extraordinary. An endorsement from Stephen King. So that's very deliberately chosen. That wasn't just a happy accident for whoever was putting this book listing together. They know that there's only so many characters that are going to show up above the read more. And, so when people are scanning down, it's not going to show all of that. When they want to read more, obviously they can drop down and do so. But if they're not, then you really want to maximize your punch for the lead. You don't want to have the most important part or the most compelling part or the most interesting part of your book description showing up underneath that if people are not going to have as good of a chance of seeing that, as above the break.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Yeah, because when you think about the listing as is, really it only includes what I'm showing right here. It doesn't include that. Not everyone's going to click that read more. So that's a great point, Rob. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you noticed that. So you really be thinking about when you're creating your own book listing, create it and look at it after the fact, because unfortunately you're not gonna be able to do like a preview look when you upload your book.
Right.
You're gonna have to upload it and then kind of go back and see what it looks like on the page. But yeah, just be deliberate with this and try to get something here that really shows what value your book has.
Definitely. Cool.
You can also see that right off the bat, there are formatting in HTML here as well, because the only way to get this bold, to choose which bold you're doing right here, is to format that in HTML. Now, I would probably have done like a little bit more, but again, we're analyzing books that are obviously doing very well, and maybe even those slight tweaks could help potentially even more. But you can add headers in here as well. Headers, bold text, you can italicize words. So just thinking about that. What you don't want is just one box of text that just looks like this, and that's it for that listing. Because if you're thinking again about you click in the read more, they're going to see like half a box of text. It's just not going to be as interesting. But like you said, Rob, this is very deliberate. So
yeah. So I do have a question about adding other headings. Do you think that is a function of the fact that this is a fiction book, and that the body text for the book description is more like prose, is more like what you would expect in a fiction book, as opposed to a nonfiction book where you might have bullets, you might have bigger headers, shorter, punchier things, or do you think it's not necessarily fiction, nonfiction related?
No, I think for sure. So with this fiction, as I'm looking at this is longer than most book descriptions and sales copy I've seen on a fiction book. Most of the time for a fiction book, you may have a few short intros here, like if it's a bestseller, if someone really famous has given it a review like Stephen King, and then you're going to see maybe a paragraph or two of kind of a real short intro to the book. And then that's going to be like the hook. Fiction is very different than nonfiction for the most part.
Yep.
So great point there. Just wanted to scroll down as well. They also have images in here, which are really cool. I really like that they did this. They have some kind of zoomed in editorials that they put in. They put these images in here, which really makes the listing stand out. And I'll scroll through that one more time because I think these are really cool.
Yeah, that's very distinctive. I don't recall seeing anything quite like that before. So
yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Rob. I think it's really cool just what they decided to do. Just the design work, they took it to the next level here. I think that's cool. And then they go down through here in their review right here. So these aren't the Amazon reviews. These are reviews that they put in, that the author can go in their author central dashboard and put these reviews in.
Now, are these the editorial reviews? Is that what they're called? Cool.
Yeah, these are editorial reviews that you put in, and they have a ton. They have Oprah's listed here, and then they have some other ones in bold, and they have all this formatting done really well, so you can kind of see right away Oprah's there. When I do it, this is what I suggest to people is the way that they're doing it. You want to put those two dashes and then have who it is in bold, and then this in quotes. Potentially, you could italicize the writing here, but you don't have to. But you do want to make it very obvious in the editorial reviews who is giving those reviews. Someone scrolling this can see Oprah, New York Times, Washington Post, Time, Vogue, Chicago Tribune. All these places have given this book a review, and it just goes on and on and on. Now that is a lot, and I don't think everyone's going to read through that, but what it's doing is it's giving the book some huge credibility and authority right off the bat, just to say this book is really good. And then, like we said, it has a ton of reviews as well, and a negative review up here, which doesn't, at the end of the day, negative reviews aren't going to be a listing killer. Some people aren't going to like the book, and 2,208 people have found this helpful, and there's other negative reviews as well. But the book is still selling. It's ranked 20 paid in Kindle store, which is huge. It's selling tons of copies every day. So
right.
All right. Anything more on this one, Rob? Anything else?
No. Yeah, I know. We planned on doing 10 of these, and we're already 20 minutes in. So yeah, we may end up cutting that off and doing this as a second one, or we'll see. But yeah, let's jump on. I like the first one that we looked at, and
good deal. Yeah, we'll jump to the next one. I really, I have two fiction books on here. I wanted to make sure we included those. And I think it was good for us just to go over each kind of element that we're going to be talking about, just to set the stage. and I think we can kind of give a little
Highlights.
bit quicker feedback on the rest. Yeah.
Sure.
All right, let's jump over to Regretting You. I picked this one because I really like, it's another fiction book, but I love that it has a real short title, real punchy. For me, right off the bat, I think the cover is great. I can imagine this cover really sticking out in a bookstore and catching my attention. That red and white is really good there, and I like kind of the crinkly mix of paper in the middle. As far as a cover goes, I think it's fantastic. I really like it a lot. Yeah, and I was going to jump here, Rob, and kind of show that. But anything you wanted to say right off the bat?
No. Yeah, please continue on.
Again, I love that it doesn't have a hardcover edition, but this book is in Kindle Unlimited for a fiction book. That's usually a pretty good way to go. I want to kind of jump back here. I want to see if this one was. It doesn't look like American Dirt is in Kindle Unlimited, which is kind of interesting. But a lot of fiction books are in that Kindle Unlimited program. So this one, again, $6 for Kindle price, $10.99 for paperback. This one's kind of going either way. It's in that mode. I think I wouldn't know for sure. I wouldn't be able to tell right off the bat which kind of, if it's going for Kindle or paperback. Maybe it isn't going for a specific one there. I can't tell price wise, so there's no.
Yeah, it looks like over here it says there's the Kindle edition is $5.99. Interestingly, the audiobook edition is $6 more at $20.99 than the audio CD at $14.99. So sometimes these pricing choices are out of our control, particularly when we go on Audible Creation Exchange. They have their own internal formula that they use to price the books. It's roughly based on length, but there may be other factors involved. And so this author may have wanted to price it just the same as the audio CD at $14.99, but ACX retains pricing discretion. So that's the only observation really I have there.
Yep, and I think, again, like what we were mentioning, this part of the book description is, deliberate and here on purpose right here in the top, and looks like it highlighted it. There we go. Can get that to go away. That was purposeful. Very not as long as the other book description. Very much this seems to be kind of how fiction books are doing it. With the kind of call outs and endorsements right off the bat, and then a short blurb about what the book is about and to try to get you hooked. All right, we'll scroll down here. This one doesn't have as many reviews, editorial reviews here. Like I said in the other one, I think these look better lined up like the American Dirt, because when I'm looking at this, I can't necessarily see right off the bat who did the review. I have to kind of scroll down and see Kirkus, but then my eyes kind of glance over here. This just isn't formatted as good as it could be. But I mean, when you have good reviews here, Mind, Body, Green, Kirkus, Women's World, and People Magazine, you have some good reviews. Obviously, you want them there, and that's great. And I'm sure that's helping out the listing. So
just to clarify for anyone who it may not be clear for, your recommended path for editorial reviews would be to have the quote, the endorsement, and then next line, hyphened out and in bold the reviewer, the endorser. So that at a glance along the left-hand axis, you can see all of the reviewers for that book. Is that right?
Yeah, I just scroll back here, just take note of how this is done. I really like their formatting. You'd think at the end of the day, formatting isn't huge, but when someone's scrolling by, it really is very easy to tell who is doing these, and I think that's super important.
Yeah, and they become almost bullet points or little subheaders for for the endorsements.
All right, if you're good, Rob, we'll move to the next one.
Yep, let's move on.
All right, we have Talking to Strangers, what we should know about the people we don't know. First of all, Malcom Gladwell, super, obviously famous author, has a lot of books out there, but I do like how he did this title. I think it's very intriguing, very, very purposeful and intentional to set the book up that way. Obviously has a ton of good ratings. I'm sure they did a really good job about getting the book out there. Cover looks really good. I mean, a lot on this book looks really good to me. The cover is in some ways really simple, but then in other ways, I like this kind of almost Venn diagram type conversation thing. It really is kind of putting that in there as like the bubble, the middle, like the middle understanding. And it is kind of very interesting way of kind of
Right.
displaying that.
And I would say if you're willing, you can open it up in another tab or even just click over now. If you go to the Malcolm Gladwell's author page,
Sure.
that's on brand for his other books. Like you see them and they're largely white backgrounds, simple, short titles. Blink is the one that I was thinking of. Outliers is another one. The Tipping Point, What the Dog Saw, David and Goliath. I mean, they're not exactly serials. They're not exactly the same, but it's on brand for kind of what he's done before. So at a glance, if you've read Malcolm Gladwell books before, you might notice Talking to Strangers and think, yeah, that looks like it could be it. And then obviously you'll see his name very prominently featured. In fact, more prominently than any of his other titles to date. So I think that probably is just representative of his increasing recognition and, him as the brand rather than the book title, as the focal point.
Yeah, I love that, Rob, and I think it's so cool. I'm looking at these, Blink and Tipping Point, very, very, very similar. They even have that little green box in the same place on there. Mm-hmm. Someone sees Blink and then they see Tipping Point, and I've read both those books; they're fantastic. But if someone sees those, they're going to say, "Okay, that's the same author." Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. Great point. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yep.
I don't know much more on this one. Let's look at the book description real quick. Yeah, again, I maybe would have put a space there, but at the same time, they have this one line before the read more to kind of maybe bring you in a little bit. Mm-hmm. Interesting that there's not spaces here.
Yeah.
To me, that doesn't seem like super great. I would prefer there be spaces there. Maybe just formatting wise, this doesn't look as good as it could, but just compare it, to the other ones, and it's one of those things we talked about before, Rob. Authors like Malcolm Gladwell can afford to have formatting on a book description that doesn't look great. Yep. But when we're trying to set ourselves apart, we're trying to do as much as we possibly can do to make the reader very comfortable with buying us or buying a book from us, and things like this. I don't think we can afford. Most people can't afford to make these kind of mistakes. As Oprah and Malcolm Gladwell, they can put a book on there and pretty much do what they want.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that this is a misstep, from a formatting standpoint, and it just does not look as good as it could. Somebody dropped the ball there, or somebody just didn't care enough to, to kind of take that extra step. But like you said, I mean, we as authors, as beginning authors, particularly, there's only so many levers that we have, so many points of leverage. And so you try and move all of them, and if one of them is, okay, I'm going to spend an extra half hour or an hour or half a day figuring out what the heck book formatting is like and how to make that look better, then you ought to do that. Again, like you said, for an established author, they have a lot more latitude. They can get away with things that we would not advise or recommend or may not be optimal. For Malcolm Gladwell, who knows? Maybe maybe you'd have a 1% increase in conversion or a 2% increase in conversion if they actually put a little bit more attention into the listing here. But for them, they didn't. For us as authors, as the people that we work with, we definitely advise it and would look to maximize that.
Yeah, I really like how you talked about it as like levers. We're trying to pull as many levers as we can, and to get ahead, and that's super important. It looks like, Rob, they did the same thing that Oprah's book did, which I think is really cool. It makes me want to think about how to go about doing this. Like we talked about, it's not something I've really seen myself from other authors, even on Amazon. Really, I feel like I look at books all the time. I haven't seen things like this, so maybe it's new. Maybe people have found out a way to do this, but I really like the images here as far as a part of the book's page. It just looks really good.
Yeah, I think so too. And I wonder, if we scroll up, it says from the publisher. I wonder if that is reserved for publishing houses, that have a different sort of relationship with Amazon. I don't know if that's available to us. Maybe that's something that we can look at and discuss on a future live stream here.
Yeah, I really like that. I just wonder what options we have there. But you're right, it says from the publisher. So yeah, curious question if that's something that we could access. That could be an interesting thing to look at.
Right.
Just look real quick, editorial reviews like we talked about. You know, these are kind of all over the place. The formatting doesn't look great. And, you know, this says Oprah Magazine right here, but if this was just Oprah Winfrey up here on the top right, my eye is not going to go there. You know, as far as where my eye is going to go on the screen, it's not going to hit this part.
Yeah, exactly. It's not formatted as a separate line. It is the end of an existing line. And so if your screen size was a little bit different, then, you know, that may not show up in the same place versus the first one that we did. It was a dedicated separate line that was formatted in that way so that they're all left aligned, the endorsers.
Yep. So Gladwell has some work to do. That's what we're.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. This is cool. It's fun to look at, you know, what some of these authors are doing, and like you said, who are quite successful and, you know, have a ton of reviews and have a ton of sales, but you know, are not necessarily perfect. They're not checking all the boxes, and we can, you know, we can distinguish ourselves by doing some of the things that even the big shots are forgetting about.
Yep. I think interesting here again, as I'm scrolling down into the reviews, interesting to me that Amazon is really giving a lot of weight to these reviews, and possibly it's because so many people are finding them helpful. If you can see that 921 for that. Right. I guess people are just finding the more negative reviews helpful. Just interesting that those are jumping up to the top.
It's interesting too that the second review that we have here is not a verified purchase. The first one is. The second one does not have the verified purchase sticker beside the format Kindle edition. So I imagine you're probably right. It has to do with the number of people who found the review helpful. And the first, in this case, it's 587. Above, I think it was 900 plus. So there was, they are continually working on their review functionality and trying to weigh it, you know, developing different rating systems so that the most helpful and the most useful, you know, hopefully the most honest reviews are getting favoritism, and the you know, sham reviews are getting less. But yeah, that is interesting to observe. So this is cool. I like this case study. You know, we're touching on a number of different things.
Yes, we are. All right. If you're good, let's move on to the next one. All right. Another nonfiction book, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, a therapist, her therapist, and her lies revealed. First of all, my first this book does jump out to me. I've seen this, I remember seeing this, Rob, several times on Amazon. Just for whatever reason, Amazon is showing it in a lot of different places. But it's just a very memorable cover. The colors to me are very interesting. They're kind of very bright, but then it also seems like a more serious type book, which that's what they're trying to get at.
Yeah, the blue tone is sort of more melancholic, or at least relaxed or reserved. And, you know, obviously the content, I don't know anything about this book. I'm just seeing it for the first time, but, you know, maybe you should talk to someone, a therapist, her therapist, and our lives revealed. So, you know, perhaps some that cooler color makes me think of, maybe some dealing with depression, dealing with just heavier, weightier subjects that are not as bright and buoyant as the yellows and the reds and, you know, the oranges that take kind of center stage there. So there's that contrast that I'm noticing right away.
Yeah, and would you say that was done intentionally with this orange box right here? Because I would imagine, you know, how many tissue boxes have you seen that are that color? I haven't seen too many.
Very few. It's usually the opposite color scheme, I would say. I think of, you know, tissue boxes as kind of like blues and purples and, you know, whites and you know, kind of more subdued tones. Obviously, you know, that's what you think of when you're sick. If you're, you know, if you eat tissues, maybe you have a runny nose or something. So yeah, I would say it's definitely by design. I would also, the other thing that I know just in terms of design and not color is the tissue is almost evokes a dove, you know, or a bird for me. You know, it's sort of more abstract. You know, it's obviously a tissue when you look at it, but at first glance, it almost kind of looks like a dove. And, you know, then you think, okay, you know, white dove or a bird going into the blue sky. And so, you know, maybe that's part of what's going on with the with the story as well. So, you know, there is that cooler, you know, melancholic quality to it, but then also the brightness from the color of the tissue box, and then also that tranquility kind of idea of you know, a white bird on a blue sky background.
Very interesting, and it does seem to be very intentionally thought out and very well designed.
Yep.
And again, a lot of that stuff, is the difference between, it's the difference in book sales, I think, but just the difference in a professionally done cover versus, maybe it's one you're trying to DIY or to, just spend a little bit. Cover is just super important in book sales. It's a very, very unique and different kind of thing that you have to design. So very much, it's totally worth it to get a really good cover. But anyway.
Oh yeah, yeah. The last thing that I will mention is kind of harkening back to what we talked about previously. There is text. There is an endorsement on there. It looked like from Katie Couric, which you can't really see. It's in that upper left corner. It's really hard to see on a thumbnail.
Yep.
I only noticed that it was Katie Couric when you zoomed in like this.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah, and then if you scroll down a little bit down below, there is a footer. Well, I guess that's the subtitle, but that's also kind of small. So you don't need to make every part of your title or subtitle visible. Again, this is obviously a good example of not doing that, but it's still working and being effective.
Yeah, if you think about this size and thumbnail, you're going to be able to read the author and you're going to be able to read the main title and see what else is going on too. So,
right.
I would just want to note real quick about, I feel like the pricing is kind of interesting here, Rob, but I'm, just looking at it right off the bat, I'm not 100% sure. I understand the reasoning. The Kindle is right outside the range of where you can get that 70%.
Yep.
And then it's not necessarily near the hardcover price.
Right.
So for me, it looks like they're trying to push Kindle sales over hardcover, but I'm just curious the reason being for that. If it's, $3 outside the range, you're getting at 35%, they're getting less for this price than they would if the book was priced at $9.99. So I'm just curious if you have any thoughts there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not certain. Again, now, do you know if this is a traditionally published book? Is there a publishing house behind it, or is it a self-published production?
Let's scroll down and see if we can. I don't know if we can necessarily tell with the book details, but
yeah, Houghton Mifflin. Yeah, so that's definitely. I would say they're probably also doing the same thing. If my recollection and suspicion is correct, that they are trying to push the hardcover editions, that might be part of the pricing.
Okay.
It's a little bit higher than the paperback, maybe, because they have the paperback edition. Sometimes I guess it's hard to justify just based on printing costs, making one lower than, hardcover lower than the paperback. Amazon may have also negotiated, and this is something worth looking into, with publishing houses to change the pricing scheme so that if you're a traditional publisher, it's not necessarily the 35-70 royalty percentage that we're familiar with as independent authors. So I wonder if that's actually ends up being, closer to what they would have gotten with the $9.99, price at the 70% royalty rate. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's interesting. It's hard to kind of tease out what their intention was here, because again, one of the things when we're building our book listing, you want to think about the desired outcome. Same thing when you're building your website, same thing when you're building your email list. You want some sort of call to action. You want a clear and obvious path going forward for your audience. And it's hard to tease out what specifically they want from the general audience member. Obviously, people who know that they want the audiobook edition, they're going to get that audiobook edition. People who know that they love print books, hardback editions, they're going to get that. But the typical person who's undecided, what are they being led toward? It's hard to say, at first glance anyway.
Yeah, I think it probably is hard to say too, because there are people that will read multiple different versions of books. I like reading paperbacks, Kindle, or audiobook. I don't even necessarily have a favorite among those, but I know there are people who, like, hey, I'm just going to read on my Kindle. I'm just going to read paperback, or the actual book. So yeah, maybe it just depends there.
Yep.
Instant New York Times bestseller. Again, this is what's showing up at the top of the book description. If you want to read more, you can pop down. They have a lot of editorials right off the bat in the book description.
Yeah.
I think that can definitely help, but if you're looking at a book description, it has more of like this to me has more of like a fiction feel to it.
Yeah.
In how they're setting it up here with a lot of stuff. And maybe that's neither good nor bad. Maybe it's just how they're doing it. I mean, the book is obviously doing well and selling. I'm just curious as to the reasoning. When you can put these in the editorial review section, I'm just curious why there's so many in the book description as well.
Yeah.
Normally you want to put the best ones there. You don't necessarily want to go on and on. You kind of want to jump into that book description, sales copy type thing there, because that's what people are looking for. But anyway.
Yeah, I wonder if they're just trying to overwhelm you and maybe make the editorial review section a little punchier, because it's just these one-word things. It's not the longer sentence or two-sentence endorsements that you see up in the description. The other thing that I'm noting here, take note, Malcom Gladwell, there are some paragraph breaks in this one.
Yes.
Get on that, buddy.
Yeah, way to go, Houghton Mifflin there.
Yeah, exactly. You guys did that one correctly, at least by my standards.
Yep, scrolling down, they also have from the publisher pictures, so we're seeing that more often, which is pretty cool. They have, these look really nice. They have those endorsements. I love these as far as endorsement formatting. I think they did a good job on the review formatting here. This is a little bit different approach, but they're listing kind of just some instant quotes. But then they go on to kind of list out everyone that went and did a review of that, and there are tons.
Yeah, a lot. So and they are all formatted in that recommended style that you described, where you have it the endorser in bold on a on a subsequent line, so it stands out and it's all left aligned. So you can see Ariana Huffington right above Amy Dickinson, right above AJ Jacobs and all the other endorsers that are on there.
Yep. Just want to scroll down real quick and see what the reviews are looking like. So this book doesn't have super negative reviews at top. So that's great. Good for them.
Yeah, good job. That's
we're liking those reviews. So that's good. Mm-hmm. That's good as part of this listing. All right. Cool. You ready to move on to the next one?
Sure.
This is a little bit of a different book. Sapiens, a brief history of humankind. I think it is a very interesting title, and also book cover. I mean, I think it is a very engaging, a brief history of humankind. That sounds pretty deep. And what's this book going to show me?
Right.
You see right off the bat that it has a ton of reviews and a ton of ratings. 15,000 is huge. I saw one Oprah book, I think, something I looked at earlier had about 37,000 ratings. That was one of the highest I've seen. 15,000 is quite high as far as
many books. I think probably most, at least independently published books, don't sell 15,000 copies, let alone get 15,000 reviews. So, very, very noteworthy number of
because if you think about the amount of, the amount of people buying the book that are actually going and reviewing it, that is way more than 15,000. So if you can just think about how many copies this book has sold, probably quite a few. Let's look. I don't see necessarily price-wise that's sticking out mandatory. I mean, I think, I don't know if you have any thoughts on the cover, Rob. I think it is a very clean, very, very engaging cover. I think it's an interesting background, but then also that Sapiens really sticks out. And it is for and except for the image that's over the eye and having that dot on the eye, it is very clean and very, it's a text-based cover besides that. So interesting.
Yeah, looking at it, just again in thumbnail format, that looks like maybe a fingerprint or something, or a smudge mark. So you think of early cave art, or you think of the thumbprint of humanity, on of humankind on history. That's kind of what I'm getting out of it. The other thing that I thought is it kind of looks like a Malcom Gladwell cover. In terms of the coloring. Like that little bit more of an off-white. I think that probably is actually is supposed to make you think of bone and like skeletal history. That kind of one of the ways that we get to know what happened in the past is through the remains that we leave behind. And so that kind of makes me think of it. Yes, and on further note, this looks like a fingerprint. So not like a smudge mark, but a fingerprint on there. So it's cool. And the as you pointed out, just from a color standpoint, the Sapiens, is bright red against kind of that bone background and that, dark, those dark text tones. And it stands out really effectively.
Yep, I really like it, and I find it interesting here too. I didn't notice it in the smaller, but just the different colors here of a brief history of humankind. I think that's interesting, but it works and it looks good.
Sure.
Cool. Let's see what they got going on for book description. Yeah, a lot of these have been, like we said, bestsellers. So a lot of them are going to have the New York Times bestseller. I mean, that's what we're looking at here. But it is good that they have it right there. They're making sure that you're not missing the fact that it's a New York Times bestseller. They have it on the cover. They're sharing that all over the place. As you probably saw when I zoomed in on it, Bill Gates did an endorsement for this book, so they threw that on the cover as well. It's just one of those things. As you're building your book, as you're building your platform and getting yourself out there as an author, just think about just utilizing the things that you're getting. If you're getting a New York Times bestseller, put that on, but you can put other things on there as well. I can't think of any ideas off the top of my head, but just the idea and concept of just, pulling as many levers as you can, to go back to that analogy from before.
Right. So another thing that I'll mention in brief that has been the case for several of these, but I didn't point it out. They do have an Audible sample. So one of the nice things about Amazon, because it's integrated with ACX and has these audiobooks available. One of the things that I do sometimes is I'll just click on that as I start scrolling through and kind of browsing the reviews, because I want to hear, okay, what is the commercial sample that you have decided is going to be important, is going to pull me into this story. Who's the narrator? What do they sound like? What does the book have to say? And so again, this is more to audiobook production, but it's part of the whole public facing aspect to your publishing work. Is you want to choose a good commercial sample. You want something that's going to draw you in. You want something that is going to get you engaged enough to, actually, I kind of want to keep going. I want to keep reading. And they have it kind of set up that way. I think that is probably by design. I'm probably not the only person who will click on that sample, have it start playing in the background as I continue to scan through and decide whether it's for me or not.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I like that. Amazon does give you that. If you have an audiobook, it's just further improves your listing, because even if I'm on the Kindle, probably the hardcover as well, that might kind of put me to a separate thing. You can listen there as well. It kind of puts it on a kind of a separate page there. But you can listen as well when you're going down. So cool.
Yeah, right on.
All right, let me click back to the Kindle real quick. I'm just curious if they have any images in there from the publisher. Okay. Interesting here, Rob, just to point out, let's see if this, I clicked on see all editorials. I don't know why it brought me to a separate page. Interesting. Maybe the editorials are listed. I guess maybe it put me over to the hardcover edition, but I'm still in the Kindle. So.
Yeah, I wonder if the from the publisher, those image notes that we saw on some of those other listings is a more recent addition or more recent feature that they're starting to offer. And then this book, I know it was published a couple of years ago. It looks like 2015. Maybe it wasn't available at that time. So if that is the case, and I suspect it might be, that is a good reason to kind of continue to pay attention to what's going on and the new features that are afforded to you as an author, and stay on top of those trends, because again, it's going to give you a leg up. This book, obviously, it's still selling very well. It's still top of its category years later, but it is not doing everything that potentially it could be doing that other books in its class are able to do.
Yeah, because I just see this editorial review section as kind of a mess, because it's a little bit hard to follow. It's not exactly, it's clear. Oh, okay, we're in editorial review, but now we're from the back cover. Like, what are we doing here? So
great.
Let's see, there were reviews. Yeah, this book's got that review up, negative review up at the top. Maybe that's just going to be a common thing with bestsellers, is that that people are, even if one person's not enjoying it, everyone else is like, ooh, that was helpful for whatever reason. So interesting. Yeah,
it also makes me think, and I wonder how much of the initial sales or something has to do with the marketing efforts of a big publishing house. There aren't many books that can get the kind of love and marketing budget that an Oprah bestseller maybe can. And so, the organic reviews that we get as independent authors are sometimes more honest. Like the sales, maybe you can generate those sales, but people actually going out to write these reviews. Maybe that's the honest sentiment. Maybe people don't love it as much as the sales would indicate. And so, it is at least heartening on that level if you are producing content and people are taking the time to honestly respond and honestly respond positively, that you're connecting with them. And that's meaningful. Although it would be nice if we could all sell as many copies as Sapiens is selling, even with those 1-star reviews.
Yeah, it's just interesting, because you think Malcolm Gladwell now, like, he could come out with a book that is absolutely terrible, but people are still going to buy it, and that's they have that kind of, those people have that going for them. Right. I think of an example of, and I can't even remember the name of the author. There was a fiction series that I loved. The first 3 books were fantastic. The 4th book was kind of terrible, actually. But I love the author, and I was like, oh man, like, okay, maybe he'll do better in the 5th one. And I, because I love the first 3 so much, I bought the 5th one. And Rob, it was terrible again.
Oh gosh, it fell off the cliff and stayed there.
The 6th book came out, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to spend my time anymore.
Right.
And it's tough because you can build up so much like social credibility, or whatever word you want to use for that. If people want to love you, they're going to forgive that, a one-time step up, especially if they really enjoy what you do.
Right.
But you can't keep that going. Malcolm Gladwell, if a bunch of people didn't like that book, he's not gonna be able to release another one that's just as bad. Hopefully he'll take that negative feedback from his fans and audience and just, do better the next time.
Yeah. I think there are a couple of things going on there. One, there's a tendency of people to zag where others are zigging. So, if it's a bestseller, then there's a desire almost to, hey, I have this counterpoint, and I put time and effort into sending a contrasting story, maybe to help balance things out or whatever. But I think the other aspect to what you're saying is right. And that is, we can't rest on our laurels for too long. Obviously we have, if we develop a loyal followership, we don't have to do everything perfect. It doesn't always have to be flawless right out of the gate. We can take some side steps. We can have a bad 4th book, but if we have a bad 5th book as well, and we're continuing to ignore the needs of our audience, the desires of our audience, that we are not going to retain them forever. And it's just important to keep in mind your work as an author is about serving your readers, in some way. And hopefully you're able to do that in a way that meets your own artistic goals as well. But if you forget about it continually, then readers will respond, and not the way that you're hoping they will. Yep.
All right. Anything more on this book? I don't, depending on what you want to do time-wise, I don't think we have to go through all of the rest of these books, but there's at least one point that I wanted to make on one of these books that I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, let's jump to that, and then maybe we, on a subsequent video, can look at some of these others and just do a bestseller breakdown part 2.
Good deal. I wanted to jump to this one, this book called Elastic Habits by Stephen Guise, I believe, or Guise. I'm not sure how to say that last name.
Hey, Stephen, you guys. Sorry.
Guys. Yeah, I really like how, just thinking about title, just thinking about getting a book out there that is different. We also had on this list Atomic Habits, which is probably a different approach to this whole idea. But I've never seen the term elastic habits out there. To me, if anyone's interested in habits, they see elastic habits. What does that mean? Like, how could that help me?
Yeah.
They're going to at least look at the book and click on it and say, that's interesting. What is this thing about elastic habits that I may not have heard of? And it could be very popular in some circles, but like I said, it's not something that I've heard about that really made me click in and want to know more. So really, I just wanted to talk about that, Rob, here, like the importance of doing your best to make a title that is just that first part of that title is very intriguing and very different, and also very you as the author. So a couple of things we can scroll down a little bit. I think this is probably an independently published
title because I don't see too many traditional publishing houses. Selective Entertainment LLC. So yeah, I imagine that might be the firm for the author, or a smaller firm, because it is advertised even in that description as on sale, limited time only, for only 99 cents. And yeah.
Yep.
And then they also have a description. Elastic habits are easier to form, more impactful, more fun, and more resilient than habits formed with any other strategy. So that's great. If you imagine yourself as the target audience, you hear elastic habits, you're like, that's interesting. I haven't really heard that before. What the heck is that? It tells you right there. And, I think this is a really good example to take a moment on, because there are a couple of other things going on. One, it's formatted well. You've got a numbered list here, which are kind of bulleted down in the description. You actually have paragraph breaks, which are important. You have that bolding and that other formatting, right? Down below, you've got alternate headings. It looks like maybe an H3 or maybe an H2 or something. But they are breaking it up a little bit further, so they give you smaller bite-sized pieces to read, because the goal of any copy is you want them to read the next sentence and the next one and the next one and so forth, all the way down to the end. When you give them these small little bite-sized pieces, it is it's 2 paragraphs, and actually it's really only like 4 sentences or 5 sentences there. They're going to keep reading because it's a small win, it's a small accomplishment, and it gets them further along in that sales funnel for you. Another thing, just noticing down below, I haven't read all of it, but the bottom, clear call to action in bold.
What I was going to say too.
Read Elastic Habits, and you'll soon discover the power and freedom of smarter, flexible habits that adapt to your day. So that is, that's great. It's telling you exactly what you want to do. Obviously, with the pricing, we mentioned it's priced at 99 cents for Kindle, so they're probably pushing that edition. They want people to take a chance, and they also probably want to show up as a #1 bestseller, for a continual time period. The fact that it's on, in bold, it's in that formatting there, the 99 cents only, tells me maybe it's not as limited as they're advertising. It's more of a longer term strategy. Maybe it was just released, but actually it looks like it was November 2019. So it's a few months old. So you would think that 30-day window of new release kind of buzz is has dissipated, but it's still there. So it's part of a pricing strategy. Another good thing on their reviews, they have it formatted as you recommend, Jordan. These aren't Oprah and Katie Couric, but other real verified purchase authors that are bolded, and you get to see them. Maybe you recognize a name, maybe you don't, but it is formatted in a way that makes it easy to see. Boom, good endorsement. Boom, good endorsement. And your eye doesn't have to wander to the right side of the screen. If it's following that eye line down along the left side of the screen. So yeah, a lot of really good things, I think, going on here. And this is an example of a, probably independently published project that is trying to check all of those boxes and do all of those things right that we talk about, that we kind of try to break down and explain and understand the mechanisms for.
Yeah, I think it's just, I'm so glad we came upon this one, because it shows how important it is. This book right here, number 68 in Kindle Store. I mean, I was expecting this book to have come out maybe within the last week or so, but looking at November 9th, I know he's probably doing a promo right now with 99 cents, but just looking at this, 68, that is really, 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 really hard to get down to that number. That's really good.
Right.
There's even a video that was added here about the book. Really, I can see the author, if he's doing this himself or his publishing platform, like you said, Rob, is really going all out to make sure this listing is as good as possible.
Right.
A great verified purchase review as the first one. Like we said, this isn't always within your control who's going to like and find the review helpful. But just looking at this listing as a whole, I mean, this is a book I kind of want to click buy now on for 99 cents. Get it myself.
Yeah, it's very effective. It's an interesting title. It's got everything right. The author has obviously taken his time, put his attention into it. He has an author image. It's a good, headshot. Basically, it's not. It's very effective. It works. It's a clear image of the author. The author seems happy and at ease. There's not too many other things going on. It's not a picture, of them with 4 other people in the background, and you're kind of wondering which one is which. It's just a good author image to go alongside of it. They have he has his listing. If you scroll a little bit down, and we look at it, he has his own website, which is people direct. Yeah. You can kind of be directed toward. Yeah, I'm thinking right.
Yeah, look right here.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's not a long biography. He's an international best-selling author, blogger, and entrepreneur. His books have been translated into 17 languages. Maybe I haven't heard of him, but boy, he sounds like he knows what he's doing. As an author, Guise is known for delivering highly actionable world-class behavior change strategies in a humorous rapper. Stephen lives near Disney World in Orlando, Florida, stephenguise.com. So just awesome, like punchy. He leads with some of his accolades and his strengths. Has something that's kind of relatable. He lives near Disney World in Orlando, Florida. Has his website. Awesome. It's just very effectively done. And then it doesn't help or it doesn't hurt at all to have #1 in Kindle ebooks, health, fitness, and dieting. #3 in business and money. #5 in religion and spirituality. Like, it is just doing exceptionally well in a number of very broad categories. So great listing.
Yeah, I think just setting yourself up for success. I think there's so much here that is just done so well, like you were saying, Rob. You don't want to give any person coming to your book's page any reason to distrust you or any reason to say, hey, I haven't heard of that person, so I don't know if I want to get their book. This person just presents himself, the author, in a very favorable and a very quick way that I think is just very well done.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt to have #1 bestseller tag in happiness.
Right. Yeah.
So that's great.
Well designed strategy. Like you said, it may be a short-term, promotion or something that they have going on, but it's working very well. And it definitely makes me want to visit his website, learn a little bit more about him. And, that's all you can ask for from this listing. Gives you a good next step and a reason to buy, or at least enough information to get somebody who's on the cusp of buying, give them that reason to make the purchase.
Yeah, you just think about the price there too. There's really nothing here. Even if I'm not even totally interested in habits right now, if you're spending time on this listing and kind of seeing that, there's very little barrier to entry to just spend $1 on the book. So again, that's just further reason why do your due diligence and just make the page look as good as you can, because you're trying to break down that barrier to entry there and just make it easy for people to click buy.
Right, exactly.
And again, with the CTA telling them that's what you want them to do, read Elastic Habits. I love that he put that there too, because it is an important piece.
Yeah, important.
Cool.
And very well done. All right, cool. Well, we can wrap up. I will take off the screen share here.
All right.
And thank you for doing all of that, Jordan. And as always, folks, if you have questions, thoughts, if you enjoyed this, enjoyed this bestseller breakdown, I really liked it. I thought it was kind of a good way to get a sense get a sense of what's going on in a listing, and then from there you can kind of start to reverse engineer it. On the opposite side of it, when you're kind of trying to create it, can feel a little bit difficult, maybe a little bit hard to pin down, maybe a little bit more like work than we would like. But, going at it from the consumer side, kind of breaking down what people are doing, what's effective, what's not, what's capturing your attention, that's kind of the mind that you want to bring to it. That's obviously what we try to do when we're working with clients. But even if you're working on your own, that's what you ought to try to do. And we got a comment from Bonnie Phillips. Thumbs up. Thank you, Bonnie. Thanks for stopping in and commenting here. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. And I really enjoyed doing this. And I encourage everybody out there, take a little bit of time and go see what the bestsellers are doing. Try and take notes and make some observations.
Yeah, I was going to say, pull up 10 books within your niche and kind of do what we were doing and analyze it for yourself. What are they putting in their titles? It could be different across genres, just like we were saying with fiction and nonfiction. It's going to look a little different. You don't want to copy, but you can definitely emulate people that are already doing well.
Yep. Or you can straight up copy. What's the expression? Good artists imitate, great artists steal, or something to that effect. I don't know.
Just don't copy Gladwell.
Right.
Just bragging on Gladwell. Come on, man.
Yeah, so don't do that. Malcolm, and your people. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun to do, and let us know if you have thoughts, comments, questions. Have done that. Looking to design your cover soon, says Bonnie. Yeah, absolutely. let's see if that is, can we make that show? Yeah, there we go. Yes, good luck in the cover design process, Bonnie. That is a really important part of the marketing package, the marketing experience, and how people are going to interact with you. So, if you're doing these kinds of things, it's going to help give you a sense of what is out there and what is more likely to perform well. Did you have any other thoughts? Anything else that you wanted to share, Jordan?
No, I'm good. I just wanted to reiterate again that was fun, and I like looking at that. It's also just really helpful. I think it's good for us to do that too. See what people are doing. See, there's always new things you can learn.
Right.
Pretty much every time you read a book, every time you take a course or read an article, I think there's always something you can kind of take away from that. And I've taken away stuff tonight, like we talked about. I want to look up and see from the publisher, is that something we can access? Is there something, is there more that we can do to boost that listing and boost that page? Maybe not, but just having that question and wondering that is cool. It's good.
Right. And maybe it doesn't have to be an every day or every week kind of thing. Just set it on your calendar once a season, go and take a look at what's going on. And if there's something that you can integrate, like that Sapiens book, which is 5 years old at this point, 4.5 years old, whenever it was published, it may, in a future iteration, have some of those publisher images, and that's something that you can do too. You can take advantage of that. You are your own publisher. You are your own, independent firm, and so see what's out there. Pay attention to what's going on in the market. Obviously, pay attention to your own projects and your own internal development. But take a seasonal, once a year, twice a year assessment of what else your peers are doing, and try to incorporate the best and the brightest from that.
Cool. Good deal.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Bonnie, again for commenting. Thank you, everybody who is watching this either live or on replay. Let us know your thoughts, comments, questions. We'd love to hear them. Subscribes, likes, all of that. We always appreciate. And with that, have an awesome rest of your evening, and good night, Jordan, and everybody out there.
See you guys.